Hey guys, it's Skybird here, and I wanted to talk about a bit of a project that I'm taking on. This is not Bionicle related, but if you can see on the screen, this is actually going to be in relation to Exo Force. So this is a theme that came out way back in 2006, and although I think it kind of hit the ball out of the park in its first year, I do think the quality of sets kind of fell. And obviously I would imagine that fans would agree, since unfortunately the theme was canceled halfway through 2008, so we actually didn't receive a second wave or even a full first wave for Exo Force. That said, this project is basically taking it on myself to extend that 2008 year to create a full theme. Right. The way I'm going to be doing this is trying to use as many pieces as possible that were around in 2008. Whether the color changes, that I'm not worried about, but the mold specifically, as best I can. There are obviously going to be a few caveats to this, a few things that either are exorbitantly expensive that I don't want to put in something I design, or, you know, a part that maybe doesn't make sense that I might have to replace with a newer mold, but you get the point. So the set that you can see on screen here is the Gate Assault set, which is actually one of my favorite from Wave 1 of Exo Force. It's not a terribly expensive set either, thankfully. And I think this set gives you a lot, has a lot to offer, right? It has a small location build with this bridge gate. No real, like, significance behind it outside of this little feature here, which we'll show off in a second. Well, that's not really what this video is about, so I don't think I'm going to be showing it here. But I essentially wanted to make a set kind of like this, but for 2008. That's what we're going to be taking a look at today. So without further ado, I have what I call Storm the Deep Jungle, or Deep Jungle Ambush. I haven't decided yet, but I'm really happy with how this has come out so far. So at the moment, it is 532 pieces, which I think is pretty reasonable for what you've got going on here. Now, granted, it is 3 Devastator type figures, or robot type figures. Obviously 1 Devastator, 2 Iron Drones, but, you know, same build, as well as a Rio, or I don't know how you pronounce it, but my personal favorite of the characters here. I have a little bit of an affinity for him as well, because Uplink was my first Exo Force set, which he of course came in and piloted as well. And then I figured I'd throw Hitomi in rather than Swift in this case, since she was, I believe, exclusive to the Golden Tower, and then like a little special edition or some little side thing that you could get from somewhere. Anyway, the point being, so this is the build I've got going on here, and I'm really happy with the build overall. This build here is inspired by the River Dragon build. Originally I was going to do an Uplink type design, but it turned out that this was actually less pieces, surprisingly. Obviously I've added more onto it, of course, but the original build that I had was 125 pieces, surprisingly, which is shocking. So this is down to 85, 86 pieces, whatever it just said. And one thing to note about the 2008 sets, specifically the villain sets or their mechs, is that they're somewhat inspired by animals, right? Dark Panther, Battle Arachnid, right? And so I wanted to kind of make sure to carry that over with the mechs for the bad guys here. This one here is actually polybag size, specifically a little bit bigger because I added some stuff on it for a reason we'll get to in a moment, but can be stripped down a little bit to make it polybag size, which I think is quite nice. This is the Sniper Raven, which is what I called that. And then we have the Dark Mammoth, I think is what I called that, but I could probably rename it something. I did not say that I was very good at coming up with names for these. The reason I chose purple for both of these is that I actually went out of my way to design a combination model between the two, which we'll show off here in a few moments. But the builds for them are relatively straightforward while still being fun to kind of play with. For the set, you get one little mini bot in the form of this little like bat thing here that can detach from the back of the Raven itself and sort of act as like the tail wings for it, since it's a jet type build, right? This has 2 flick fire missiles, one on each side, and then this doesn't have anything that fires on it for the Mammoth, but the R2 rammer is what I named this one, since the one in the gate assault set is called like R1 rammer. That actually has a launcher on it. So the idea is that you can take this and ram it into the gates here, or try shooting the gate. And the way that this works is it's actually using this specific piece here. The reason I chose this piece is because there's a specific angle to it that's might be unique, like slightly unique to this piece, that should, in theory, I have not tested if this works yet, but in theory should allow for this door to be actually broke open. Essentially, when you would hit the door, it would push up on this brown barricade piece here, and then the door can open after that. It's just a silly little feature. It is something I would have to test, of course. Outside of that, we also have a little cannon on one side that can be, gotten to by using these ladders here. Just a suggestion. And then some more ladders here with another launcher to try and fight back, right? So really happy with the design overall. Since this is deep jungle themed, I wanted to make sure I added more, plant life to it, to somewhat insinuate that this is in the jungle somewhere, right? There are some missiles toward the front, some little point defense stuff, nothing fancy, and then Hitomi's blades over here in the corner. As for the whatever you want to call this river dragon clone build here, it basically has the same sort of posability as the river dragon, but has some similarities to uplink as well. One of the other reasons I chose the parts that I chose is to make sure that pretty much across the board the the parts in the set were repeated as often as possible, right? That's something that Lego likes to do nowadays, is basically make sure that there's like as few unique pieces in a set as possible. So they tend to reuse the same piece over and over again where they can, right? There are a handful of places in this set where that's not the case, but you kind of get the point here. So what other feature does this set have? Well, you can actually take the Sniper Raven and the Dark Mammoth and combine them together to make a mech. And this is what I came up with here, which I'm pretty happy with. It's probably not as sightly as something like this, but I think it works within reason. It looks somewhat comparable in terms of its actual, like, I don't know, efficacy, I guess. Like, they look like they'd be similar in terms of armament. I don't know how else to put it. So, but really happy with the design overall. Here it is in sort of an action pose, and then these are the leftover pieces. I might have missed one, surely, but suffice to say, really happy with the build overall. This keeps the flick fire missiles at the top here as well, so you have something you can fire off. And yeah, it just has a blaster on each arm. Has elbows, ball jointed shoulders, ball jointed legs, and then hinged feet. So really happy with the design of it. Somewhat took inspiration from like an owl, but I'm very limited in what I can do with these pieces. So you can see a little bit of a beak here and these eyes, if you want to imagine. But yeah, really happy with the design of just the whole set in general. I'm sure that this will change more and more as I go on. But overall, I'm really happy with it. 532 pieces for, 3 bad guy builds and the 2 good guy builds. For reference, the Gate Assault set has 402 pieces, so it is 130 pieces less. It is also one of these builds less, but the Rammer, I believe, here has more pieces. And then, of course, you get the Elephant and the Raven mech, which both have a decent number of pieces in them as well. So that's pretty much it for this video. If you guys did like this video, of course, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, because it does help the channel out a lot. I do apologize for not making videos like the last week. I had issues with my microphone. It just kind of broke on me. I was able to fix it, thankfully. But outside of that, you know, I'm just gonna get back to work. So keep doing what you're doing, I guess. I'll see y'all in the next one. Take care.